Well, good morning. This is Dr. Darrell Green, broadcasting you from Oklahoma Baptist University. This is the policy and strategy class, MGMT 4903. I want to welcome all our guests and our reviewers and alumni for this important moment. Just want to make a couple comments about this class. I consider this class is really life after pandemic. One of the things that we learned is that we were going to have to do things on Zoom. And so we kind of leveraged that. And so all our presentations, at least in my class, are all on Zoom. So students, we can use it for further training, and also that we can better prepare our students, and bringing in your expertise all across the world, I think is important. A little bit also about this class, curriculum design is very important. For that, we do use the objectives, the outcomes, but one of the things is very different. We do use the NACE. The NACE criteria. NACE stands for the National Association of Colleges and Employers. We look at 8 critical criteria, and we such as critical thinking, professionalism. You'll see that. So in this class, we also have professional dress is required when they're briefings. We treat it like real. They're executives. They have to submit every week. They have to do an oral report. They have to do 2 written reports. And so we take this very seriously. And so this is what we're going to get started. So we are doing captioning, which is well known, well recognized as a business simulation, the closest thing we can get to real world experiences. And so these students have been doing this. They have been broken down in teams. And they had 11 rounds, 3 practice rounds, and 8 real rounds. And so this is the combination of the end. I think we set some records. Dr. Cragen, we had some of the students got in the 1% across the nation. And so this is what we're going to do right now. So right now, we're going to call up the reviewers, briefly say your name, you affiliated with OBU, and shout it out. I'm going to start with Dr. Cragen.
Yeah, I'm John Cragen. I think about half the students already know me. I am really impressed with what I've already heard. I'm looking forward to this.
Okay. Dr. Rudebach.
My name is Dr. Rudebach. I have the privilege of teaching here at OBU. It's my 21st year, and I know these folks very well, and they're awesome young people. Glad they're here.
I want to also thank Dr. Rudebach. We did a dry run, so we practice even before we present. So that's one of the things we do. I want to invite one of our alumni, Miss Maddie B. From Europe. So introduce yourselves to us.
Hi, I'm Madeline Buppel. I live in Germany and graduated from OBU in 2019.
Thank you. And I think last, Mr. Provost. You're on mute.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. Sorry. I'm Clarence Prevost, a Management Development Coordinator at Gordon Cooper Technology Center. I've worked a lot with these students, and looking forward to it.
So let's get started. We're on time. Our next presenter is presenter 1. Our presenter 1 is Team 5. You're on.
Okay, can you guys see that? Okay.
Yes, you good.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hi, my name is Emily Wilmeth. I am the president of Team 5 Eerie, and this is our presentation over the CAPSIM simulation. To give you an agenda, we're going to go over our company overview, a simulation overview, our strategy, where we started, challenges and highlights, our final results, our personal takeaways, and our conclusion. So here's an overview of our company. Again, my name is Emily. I am the president. Our VP of R&D was Leonardo Schultz. Our VP of Marketing was Blake Shipp. Our VP of Finance was Chase Chester. Our VP of Production was Brett Rowland. And our VP of HR was Taylor James. So to give you an overview of the simulation, we had 6 teams, and each one was made up of 1 president and multiple vice presidents. Every team was running their own business. So every aspect of the business was performed by 1 team member in each team. And that includes R&D, marketing, production, finance, HR, TQM, and business intelligence. We had 5 required products in the beginning, with the option to create more or eliminate products as we went. We started with 3 practice rounds to kind of help us get acclimated, and those were followed by 8 real competitive rounds. And the market changed each round, so our products always had to change as well. So focusing on market changes was definitely the key to having a successful company. Each week we had a briefing with the board to discuss our results and share our plans for the future. We also completed multiple reports at the end of every week to help us examine our place in the market and evaluate how we can improve. And next, I'm going to pass it over to Leonardo to talk about our strategy.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Leonardo. So our team decided to go for a low-cost strategy where we aim it to keep our price lower than the rest of the teams. And sometimes our prices are too low, so we're not making profit out of it. So we decided to put our price higher, and that helped us to get a profit in the end of the simulation. Also, the simulation has 5 required products, 1 in each segment. And we added 1 product, but it didn't work out as we expected. So we decided to cut it in the round 6. And also, one of our strategy was to avoid unnecessary spending. So that was one of the reasons why we cut the product that was not working. And that helped us to make profit in the end of the simulation. And now I'm going to pass on to Chase, who's going to talk about how we started the simulation.
Hi, I'm Chase. So to begin with, in the simulation, we placed 6th place out of 6 teams overall. So we didn't get started on the best foot. We had about 13% market share, as you can see by the pie chart to the right. We had a negative profit, so we couldn't really have the necessary capital to invest in what we needed. And then the simulation gave us a balanced scorecard. As you can see, we weren't very balanced with 36 of the 82 points, putting us in the 7th percentile nationwide. And now I'll pass it over to Blake. He'll go more in depth on some of the challenges.
Hello, my name is Blake. Starting out, we faced many challenges in the first 5 rounds of this simulation. Round 6 was when we started to see progress. The first challenge we faced was forecasting. I was in charge of marketing and was having trouble forecasting how much we would sell of each product. This caused overproduction of certain products and stockouts of others. The second challenge we faced was emergency loans. We received loans in rounds 4, 5, and 6, which made it hard to come back from. As the rounds went on, we began forecasting more accurately, which helped our team make a profit. The above chart shows round 5, where our loan was 16 million. Then in round 6, it was 2.7 million. And in round 7, we did not receive a loan and made a profit. Our third challenge was overproduction and controlling our inventory. This was due to inaccurate forecasting, which left us with too much or not enough of our products. And the last main challenge we faced was adjusting to the market early on. Not only were our forecasts inaccurate, but our prices were very low, making profits hard to achieve. The bottom table shows round 5, where we overproduced on 3 of our products, which caused our profits to decrease. Now I'll pass it over to Rhett to discuss our team highlights.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rhett. So some of our highlights, the first of our highlights was total quality management maximization. We invested in total quality management as soon as it became available in order to increase our sales and reduce our losses in round 4. And we invested through round 7 in total quality management to maximize our investments, and we saw the impact that it had on reducing costs and increasing demand. The next of our highlights was our employee productivity. It was consistent throughout each round. Our HR decisions were strong, and they allowed us to meet the needs of our employees throughout the simulation. Our next highlight was our sales growth. We increased growth in sales through most rounds due to learning how to better forecast and paying better attention to market demands. Even though we struggled with forecasting and market needs, our sales were still growing consistently. Lastly, our teamwork and communication. We helped each other better understand the simulation. We were meeting up, agreeing on decisions, being in constant communication, and it helped us stay on the same page and work together. Now I will pass it on to Taylor for our results.
Hello, I'm Taylor. And so overall, we did finish 5th place towards round 8, but cumulatively, we were in 6th. Our market share did decrease just a little bit by 1% to 12% of the market, and profit went up. From the beginning of the simulation, we were 3.6 negative, and then we finished at 11.3 million. On the balance scorecard, we had 64 out of 100 points, which then led us to the 44th percentile nationwide. And then we'll pivot back to Emily to discuss her lesson learned.
So the biggest lesson that I learned through all of this is to partake in further research to really make sure we understand every aspect of the simulation.
The biggest lesson that I learned was the importance of forecasting and how much of an impact that has on profit making.
I learned that all the areas of a business interact with each other in very important ways.
I learned that simple is better. Small incremental increases in certain aspects of especially production seem to be more effective than maxing everything out immediately.
And I learned maxing out, be careful, because sometimes it is helpful and then other times it can put you in the hole.
I learned that to focus on details because every small thing can matters and can make the difference in simulation.
So to conclude, overall, this was a really great learning experience. We were able to see personal and professional growth. We gained a lot of new knowledge and skills that we'll be able to utilize in our future careers. Thank you so much, and we are open for questions.
Would you unshare your screen? Thank you so much. I guess this is Dr. Green. What you're going to be seeing is rank 6 to first place. So that is the progression of the presentations. Now we're going to, again, this is rapid fire. I'm going to ask the reviewers, keep your questions to 15 to 30 seconds and also responses. We're going to get to Dr. Cragen. We're going to start with you, followed by Dr. Rudebach, Ms. Maddie, and then Mr. Provost.
So my question is this: where do you go from here? Looking ahead 3-4 years, what's your strategy?
So that is something that we kind of figured out towards the end. Round 7 and 8 was when we really kind of figured the whole thing out. So for us, continuing that low cost strategy, I think that was really beneficial for us to price a little bit lower and also just continue to effectively forecast and make sure that our products match market demand. I think overall that would help us continue to be successful.
Dr. Rudebach, you're up.
My role is to critique the presentation. So guys, the slides were much better than what you guys had done on Monday. Thanks for making those adjustments on Tuesday. I would ask you though that on your initial slide that your names line up with the pictures where people are standing. That would have been helpful. Also, Taylor and Leonardo would ask you to move your cameras a little bit closer so we see more of your face. That would be very helpful professionally for you guys to do that. And the tables were still, a couple of them were pretty small to read. So I would encourage you, if you do this again, to expand those some more. And I wasn't sure, Dr. Green, if everybody was supposed to be in business professional this time or not. I will say that Emily probably was the best business professional in the group. With the rest of you were doing business casual, you were dressed just fine. I just wasn't sure exactly what was expected for this one. So, but nice job on the slides. You guys really improved those greatly over Tuesday. So thanks very much for your work on this. And great between the speakers, by the way. That was a nice job.
Thank you. Miss Maddie?
Yes, I do have a question about the inventory. So you said that in 3 categories, you had too much inventory. I recall the edge inventory that was 572 and you only sold 25. Do you think with a different strategy, you would have sold more, or why did you have so much inventory left? Why did that not sell?
I think a big thing was at the beginning, we didn't have the money to spend on marketing. So we were spending the bare minimum on certain products, and that caused the people we were selling to not know about our product as much. So we weren't selling that specific product, and our prices as well were very low.
Okay, and Mr. Provost, you have the last question.
Yes, sales growth and forecasting. How did you make that connection? And after making that connection, what prompted you to make the adjustments?
So we can see what other groups were doing, and we noticed that that was a big thing for the other groups, was that the better that their products looked, the better that their sales were. So we were able to kind of make that connection. And we knew that from the beginning. It was just something that we struggled with. the forecasting specifically. So once we figured that out, we were really able to see that growth in our sales and in our profits.
Thank you so much. Your presentation time was 7:40. That is the 7 minutes was that particular team because they were giving an overview. So great job. I want you guys to find your reaction on your screen. Let's give them a raw virtual applause. Come on, try it again. There you go. That's the right button. Okay. Great job again, team 5. Next up, presenters 2. That is team number 1, and that was the 5th place. Team 1, you're up.
All righty, can you guys hear me okay? We all revved up, ready to go here?
Yep.
All righty, let's get started. Hello, my name's Trey Marion. I am the president of Team Andrews, who finished 5th in this CapSim presentation, and we're going to go ahead and show you what we did right and what we did wrong. So here we go, starting from left to right. Here's our team. Bridge was in charge of marketing. Mason was in charge of research and development. Solomon was in charge of HR. Emma was business intelligence, which that was basically kind of helping out everybody. Bruno was our finance guy, and myself was in charge of production. And now I'm going to pass it off to Emma, who's going to talk about our takeaways and our agenda for the rest of this presentation.
Hi, guys. Thanks, Trey. I learned that each decision is intertwined with the others. They all balance each other and they all interact off of each other. Bridge learned that you have to be adaptable. Mason, his emphasis was on being able to take risks. For Bruno, he found that each area has its unique value. Trey said that he learned most to trust your decisions. And Solomon is not with us today. He is out of state, but he learned that the importance of communication on making decisions. And now I'm going to hand it off to Bridge to talk about each area of the simulation and how our takeaways showed up in each area.
Thanks, Emma. So as you said, I was in charge of marketing. Really had 2 main aspects to marketing. First, the pricing. As you can see on the right, circled in green, the simulation gave us price ranges that the customers would be willing to pay for products. So in terms of pricing, we stayed within that price range, and we also tried to stay $1 to $1.50 below the highest priced product in that market. Also was in charge of forecasting, which is a big area for the simulation, as you've heard before. The simulation gave us the growth rate for the next year, which was helpful. But as we went into a recession around 2027, as you can see in the bottom right, it really hurt us. We weren't great at adapting to recession and figuring out how to spend wisely in that. In terms of improvement with marketing, we had 2 budgets, sales and promo budget. And I think if we would have increased those earlier, it could have helped our sales overall and put us in a better position towards the end of the simulation. And now Mason's going to talk about R&D.
Thank you, Bridge. I'm Mason, and I did research and development. And as our problem during the time that one was in week 4, is that the products were not really doing so well though in there. We weren't performing in the size of the problem during that. When we noticed it there in round 4, we decided to drop it, and the best in there was to create a new product. New product there was to catch up to speed to the other products. They were too behind, and we could not really do very much with it to it. So it was the best option for us into it. We were actually just putting ourselves into a hole working with it there whenever though it was a waste of time to do it. So making a new product was the best option for us. And next I'm going to give it to Bruno to talk about our financial structure.
Thank you, Mason. So a little bit of our finance here. Rounds 1 through 4, we actually were doing really well. We had $90 million in sales, over $1 million in profit. We were holding the 3rd position in the simulation. But then by round 5, I believe we all made a few mistakes. Our sales dropped significantly. We could not sustain our profits. And then we dropped from 3rd to 5th place. And then round 8, we were able to come back on our sales, but that was not enough to cover the expenditures that we had. So we finished in 5th place. Now I pass it back to Trey. He'll talk about human resources.
Thank you, Bruno. So our approach with human resources was a little bit different than everybody else. We only came behind Chester when it came to spending with HR. And the reason behind this was during our practice rounds, we noticed that spending, the extra, thousands of dollars a year on training and recruiting, it really reduced turnover rate. And that was a really major issue with a lot of other teams. But obviously, we finished 5th out of 6, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But our customers and employees were extremely happy. We really wanted to have high productivity, which we achieved, and it came down to the product and production, which I'm going to go and switch into now. If you look to the right, the top one was our first round and round 1, and the bottom one was our 8th round. We stayed fairly consistent, but the thing is though we stayed consistent, the market didn't stay consistent. It was constantly changing, and we struggled adjusting. So what was good? Predicting overall demand was tough. Me and Bridge really tried to get into forecasting, but we did a pretty dang good job. Adjusting to customers, they want something different every single year, just like real customers. And product marketing, Bridge did a wonderful job on that. What was bad? Well, we had a lot of overstock in inventory, very similar to the last team. Our pricing could always be up and down. You never knew. And it always felt like we were just a year behind the curve, and we couldn't get our heads above water after round 5 and finishing in round 8. It was just like, man, what are we doing wrong? And that was our biggest struggles. So I'm just going to wrap it up here and say thank you guys very much for your time. And that concludes our presentation.
Thank you so much, team one. We're going to start with Dr. Rudelbach now.
So thanks, guys. Good work on this. I really liked your introduction slide. You did a nice job getting those lined up. Your handoffs were very professional, very smooth. You did a nice job with the camera placement. It was very easy for me to see your faces, so good job on that. 2 things with the marketing slide and the finance slide specifically. I like how you had circled specific information that you wanted to draw our eyes to. So thanks for doing that. Bruno, I would just encourage you to either blur your background or maybe change the location. It looks like you might be, it's hard to tell, but I see a dresser over your left-hand shoulder. And but if you just blur that, it'll make it better, or choose one of the backgrounds. Bridge and Trey have a very nice professional looking background. It makes them look really smart to have all those books behind them. So something like that looks very nice as well. So just let me encourage you to do that. That would be great. Otherwise, you guys did a nice job. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rudelbach. Ms. Maddie B.
Yeah, you said that you were always a year late. Like when I did the simulation about 2 years ago, we had the same thing. Why do you think you were always late? Because for us, we were always trying to copy what the other groups did. So that's kind of why we were always late, because they then adjusted their strategy going forward.
Yeah, that's what we were doing. It was just like, well, what is the other team doing? And so we'd look at what the other team was doing, because Digby was in like the 109th percentile, absolutely donkey stomping everybody in like the highest schools. And I was like, let's just look at what they're doing. So we do what they're doing, and then we turn it in, and we wouldn't do that good. And then I'd look what they did for that round, and it's nowhere near what we did. And it's just like, so then I'd look at like Noah, and be like, Noah, what you doing? He's like, I'm not going to tell you. This is a competition. I'd be like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Provost, you're up.
Perhaps in your private conversations, or maybe even in doing the work, what was the solution for this overstock, always overstocking your inventory? What did you come up with a solution for that?
Just cut off production. That's what ended up doing. And we ended up doing it kind of the beginning of our downfalls. We cut off production at the beginning of the recession, which you think would be perfect timing, but it really did not. Our customers did not like that. And it was like, oh, recession, we're going to go buy the cheap product, the stuff that's not as good. And they came in for our stuff, and it really took a hit. But towards the end, like we would have quite a bit of stock, and we would really just adjust. I'd get with Bridge, and we would really just adjust about, okay, let's make this much as opposed to this much, or this much as opposed to this much.
No layoffs, right?
No layoffs. We had to protect our people, pay them good. We weren't doing great, but they were happy.
All right. So thank you so much. That was team one. Their time was 5:44. Excellent. The remaining teams should be 6 minutes or close. Let's give them a virtual applause, if you don't mind. Use the reaction. There's a reaction. Use the show something. Okay, great. I think we up to 44 individuals. Thank you so much. See Dr. Holden. He's waving. Oh no, he's applauding. So next up is our next presenters. Next presenters is Team 6. Team 6, you're up.
Before I share my screen, I just briefly wanted to say that since 2 of our team members are out of state and either not able to join us or without internet, we pre-recorded our presentation for you to view today. Hello, we're Team Ferris, and this is our final CapSim presentation. I'm just going to start by introducing our team briefly. I'm Katie Young, so as the team president and also in charge of competitive intelligence. We also had Seth Meacham, the VP of production. We had Austin Marquis, the VP of finance. We had Noah Velliser, the VP of research and development. We had Mallory Lockhart, the VP of HR and TQM. And we had Jackson Wynn, the VP of marketing.
Next, we're going to go over the agenda. We're going to talk about each department and how they contribute to our overall success. Then we're going to talk about each team member and the lessons they learned from the simulation. Our team takeaway is that collaboration is most effective and all departments need to work together in order to have success.
So each quarter it was kind of a challenge to do R&D because it varied so much based on what the customer needed as far as age, longevity of the sensor, that sort of thing. So we have different products, low end, high end, traditional. As you can see on the right, which is the perceptual map, there's a data point where we want to land, and that's the bottom right of that circle. And sometimes it was best for us not to land on the bottom right because we needed to age that product because that's what the customer wanted. As far as the customer survey scores, we were consistently in the top 3 in that category. We always did the best we could to get the customer what they needed. We differentiated our products by providing the lowest cost, and we gave the best products that we could to the customers. Finally, we were able to adjust and kind of react on the fly very well, which kind of aided us in the process of the simulation.
So as far as marketing is concerned, we took some dips in overall shares. However, we found a way to rebound every single round. We were consistently priced high in order to maintain high contribution margins. We had fairly accurate forecasting throughout the rounds, and we got a late start on getting the sales and promo budget up. However, we eventually reached diminishing returns and we scaled back our spending, which proved to be successful for our team.
Thank you, Jackson. My name is Seth Meacham, and I'm in charge of production this semester. Now, we want to draw your attention to the left chart where we can see the carrying costs. Year 7, we struggled. We had too much inventory, and you can see where we took a hit. Now, if we look to our right side at the automation rating chart, we incremented on average about 1, sometimes 2 per year for each category, and we actually were at optimal level. Now, we never quite hit the sweet spot for the production schedule, and we struggled to find optimal capacity, but we did a great job saving money in production, and this allowed the contribution margins to be through the roof. Thank you.
I was in charge of HR, which is human resources. We started in round 3. We did $5,000 of recruitment spendings and 80 hours of training. I was also in charge of TQM, which is total quality management. It drops costs and makes all processes faster. In round 4, we spent $1,500 in each category. We did that from round 4 to round 6. And then because of diminishing returns, we moved to $1,000 in each category in round 7. And then in round 8, we finished with $0.
Hey, I'm going to go over some finance stuff a little bit. So if you look at the stock price graph, you can see our stock price trended down through about week 5, and we were able to rebound it the second half of the simulation. The next one I'm going to go over is our short-term debt. We took short-term debt week 1 to try to get ahead of the rest of the packs, and that strategy mostly worked. We were able to stay away from short-term debt until week 7, where we did have to take out a little bit more to finish us up. Moving on to long-term debt, we took some long-term debt to help set us up for the future, and then we were able to stay away from it for the rest of the simulation. If you look at week 3 on the stock issue, that's what we can best describe as a CapSim glitch. It sold 5,000 shares without our authorization. In week 4, we actually had to buy back 4,000 shares to try to help fix our stock price and our cash position a little bit.
For our management strategy, we actually had a broad differentiation strategy where we produced top-of-the-line products across all segments. In addition, we had high contribution margins every round because of the low cost that we produced. And we also had high prices, and we did not move from the high prices because customers were willing to pay that high price. We started by discontinuing our low-end product, which proved to be a little bit detrimental to our team. However, we try to maintain presence in all categories, and we finished up with adding new low-end and traditional product to the market and managed to keep presence in all markets.
So just some results I want to share with you. Ferris's biggest downfall was in the financials. We could never quite figure out how to get that score up on the balance scorecard. Our stock price score was pretty good, but we just could never quite get the leverage worked out, and so it really counted against us in the end. Our final class ranking was 4th, and our best section on the balance scorecard was in learning and growing. We constantly invested a lot in that, and it really paid off in the end for productivity. And then I just want to briefly brag on my team as a highlight for being adaptable, for being able to get things down to a process, and for just having a good inter-team culture. Everyone really got along and worked really well together the entire simulation. So what I learned from this project is just to always keep a positive attitude, because your team is looking to you for cues on how to respond likewise.
The biggest thing I was able to take away from the simulation was the ability to adjust on the fly and use that as an advantage against the competitors throughout.
I learned that marketing conditions are unpredictable and that companies' forecasting is not always right.
So team collaboration was the biggest takeaway for me for the simulation, because when we came together as a team, we proved to have very profitable results.
What I learned from the simulation is that the market is constantly changing, so you have to be able to adapt to any situation that is thrown at you.
So if I had to pick one key takeaway, it would just be how critical communications between departments is. For example, with me doing finance, I need to make sure that we have enough cash on hand so that R&D can do what they need to do and production can do what they need to do. And that'll expand across any organization.
Again, we are Team Ferris, and we are happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The order of reviewers, it's going to be Miss Maddie, Mr. Provost, Dr. Craig, and Dr. Rudebach. Miss Maddie, you up?
Yes. Why did you have to, hold on. So you said that for short-term borrowing, you didn't have to take anything out until year 7, which I think is quite late. Because I think in year 7, when I did the simulation, we kind of sold all the capacity and everything. So why do you think it took until year 7 that you had to take out borrowing?
I would say one reason for that, I'm sorry, I'm Austin from Team 6. My webcam doesn't work on my laptop, unfortunately. But I would say that part of that, the stock thing that happened in weeks 3 and 4 really messed up like our groove and where we were at for like the next 3 weeks, and ended up just launching kind of a snowball thing. So taking out short-term debt in week 7 was something we had to do to kind of make up for that.
Team, Mr. Provost, you up?
We I caught that phrase. We never found that sweet spot for production. How would you find that sweet spot? Who would you collaborate with, and how would you find that sweet spot if it can be found for production?
I'll speak to this a little bit. So we were using an equation to do forecasting and to do our production schedule. And most of the time it was fairly accurate. We didn't do awful, but the problem was we continued to stock out. Part of that was R&D was continuing to make products better. And so the market was still growing and we were just not able to keep up all the way. And so our equation was admittedly flawed in getting that correct because of the demand that kept growing every round.
Dr. Craig?
Yeah, I noticed that your professor chose to throw a recession at you. That was his choice, all right? It's a good choice because it's going to happen. So my question was, recessions or ups and downs in the market you have noticed are inevitable. How should you, after you graduate, predict the direction the market's going to take so that you can adjust to it?
I think you can take a lot of cues from just being plugged into the news, and also looking at the stock market and listening to what's out there. But in general, like I know right now, the job market is great. There's a lot of open positions, and so that's wonderful to graduate at a time like this. But just moving forward into the next 4 years, I think it's important to remember that security is not promised at any point. And so just taking advantage of the opportunities as they come now, so that way you're not missing out in the future.
And Dr. Rubach, you have the last word.
I just like to commend the team on using technology. You had some challenges to overcome, and instead of just saying we can't do it or doing something different, you were creative in how you did it. So congratulations on making that work. You were really able to work the technology so the gaps between speakers basically didn't exist. So congratulations on using the technology as well as you did.
Thank you so much. Team 6, time was 5:42. Practicing does pay off. Great, amazing job on that. Let's give them a virtual applause for Team 6. Okay, not everybody. Seth, you on board? Okay. So now the top 3 teams, again, other teams, everybody got better, and I think that's important. For the top 3 teams, the next presenters are team 2. Team 2, you're up.
Perfect. Can everyone see the screen okay?
Yes. Yes, great.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kayla McCrary, and I was a part of Team Baldwin along with Caden, Micah, Laura, Tyler, and Ethan. So first, to kick off with an agenda of what we're going to discuss today, we're going to start with a company overview, then we're going to go to a management strategy, a story of the simulation, our performance, our key takeaways, our lessons learned, and then finish off with a conclusion. So first, to begin with the company overview, Laura was our president and vice president of marketing. Micah was the vice president of research and development. Caden was the vice president of production. I was the vice president of human resources. Tyler was the vice president of competitive intelligence, and Ethan was the vice president of finance. And our motto was go big or go home. And now I'm going to pass it to Caden to discuss our management strategy.
Thank you, Kaylee. So our strategy was a niche differentiator strategy, which focused on the high-end performance and size segments. With the strategy, we were able to price our products above average, and we were expecting to increase our capacity. However, we had to sell some capacity due to some emergency loans in the future rounds. And in the next slide is just a little bit of a representation of where we started and where we finished off. So in 2023, we placed 5th once again into that emergency loan. And it wasn't until round 7, 2027, sorry, actually round 5 of 2027, where we placed 3rd place due to the accurate forecasting from Laura and everyone understanding the simulation. Now I'll pass it off to Laura for the performances.
Thank you, Kaden. I'll talk about the performance of the company throughout the 8 rounds. As you can see on the graph on your left, we started with low sales and an overall poor performance. That was because we were having extra inventory on hand, our forecasting techniques were not accurate, and our investment in advertising and promotion was not effective. However, we recovered after the 2nd round, and we started to have sales above the market average. Baldwin's market share also improved through time and ended with 19% market share, the 2nd highest in the market. In terms of wealth creation, at the beginning, we had a hard time creating return for investors due to initial losses, as you can see on the graph on your right. Consequently, our book value or equity was below the market average the first round, but it started to improve after our profits increased too. So now I'll pass it on to Ethan. He's going to cover the most critical aspects and takeaways from each department.
Sorry about that. There we go. I'm on mute. Thank you, Laura. My name is Ethan, and I'm going to be going over some takeaways that we found as a group. So for R&D, it was really trying to time our products and meet customers' wants and needs sooner than our competitors. Really kept us ahead. For production, really finding ways to keep inventory from 100 to 0, and trying to find that happy medium to avoid any unnecessary spending on inventory. Marketing, was really the importance of forecasting accurately and investing effectively. But at the same time, trying to analyze what our competition is doing and trying to stay ahead of the curve. For human resources, we found it really important to spend the full amount of our budget on recruiting and training hours really kept us competitive in the long run and towards round 8. And finally, for finance, finding ways to allocate our liquidity to the right financial investments to maximize our profit, our stock price, and our leverage. And that's it for me. I'm gonna pass it on to Micah. She's gonna go over our lessons learned. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Micah. Thank you, Ethan. So I have the privilege of just giving a team summary about our team dynamic and what we learned and what our takeaways were. And one of the things that I would just like to draw your attention to as you read each individual's takeaway, I think it can be summarized in 3 words, the relationship between everyone, and that is our attitude, our awareness, and communication. Throughout this whole simulation, we had to work together in order to come a really rough start. And in each of the latter rounds, cumulatively, we're in 3rd place, but in each of the individual rounds near the end, except for the last one, we placed 2nd. And so we went from being in one of the bottom positions to being one of the top teams. And I think that speaks really highly of our team dynamic, especially of each one's individual commitment to learn and to do better. And that effort and that intentionality started from our president and carried throughout for each of our vice presidents and through each of our categories. And so when we think about this simulation and long-term takeaways and what we can take from it, the ability to work together is super important. Now I'm going to hand it over to Tyler to conclude.
Thank you, Micah. So my name is Tyler, and I'll be going over our last slide. So jumping right into it, as a team, we had really good communication. And that was because of the intentionality that was set by our president, Laura. And I feel like that's why we did so well in the simulation. We also learned that just because things don't go well at first, that doesn't mean that things won't get better over time. As a team, we stayed strong through the hard times, and that really paid off. Next, we learned that part of competition means taking risks and finding little ways to be creative. And lastly, we had a growth mindset, and that is key to success. And that is the end of our presentation. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Team 2. We're going to start our rotation. Right now, we're going to have Miss Maddie, Dr. Cragen. I'm sorry, we're going to start with Mr. Provost, Dr. Cragen, Dr. Rubach, and then Miss Maddie B. So Mr. Provost, you're up.
For Laura, you said you were accurately able to forecast. Was that by luck, or did you have just this one little item that helped you be more accurate in your forecasting than the rest of the team?
Yes, was it? I will say it's a little bit of luck as well, because there are some aspects in the market that you cannot control or forecast accurately. But for sure, we took into consideration the growth of the market each round in each segment. Also, we consider what the competition was doing and what their strategy was, so we could forecast better.
It is like throwing a dart, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of sometimes, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Cragen, you're up.
Yeah, I was pleased and encouraged by the decision to niche market, because you decided not to be all things to all people. And that always helps you to focus. I think that may account for the fact that you weren't clobbered by the recession.
Correct. So we focused on the high technology segments, right? And the recession, like we were aware of the recession and we produced less and took the things we needed to take care of. But the recession didn't hit us hard. That's correct.
Thank you. Dr. Rubach.
You guys did a really, really nice job with your slides. They were very readable. I really appreciate that. Did a really nice job with the handoffs. The only thing I would suggest, Caden, if you could tilt your camera down a little bit more so we get more of you and less of that glowing light above you. There we go. That's better. It just helps us see you better, as opposed to Jesus shining over top of your head like that. So good job on that. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Miss Maddie B.
So if I understood correctly, you were only represented in 3 segments instead of the 5. Do you start the simulation with all 5 and then you kind of flee the market, or how did that work? Because I think we started when we did it, I think we started in all 5 and then we kind of did the same and exit quite a lot of them. I think we only stayed in 2 in the end. When did you make this decision and why did you make that decision?
Yeah, so we started in the 5 segments, and then around round 5 we exited the low end segment, and we kept on the traditional segment, but we were not like investing a lot of money. It was just a big segment that we were like facing cash inflows. So we stayed on the traditional one, but we exited the low end segment in around round 5.
Okay, and then you only had 1 product per segment, or did you add products?
No, we only had 1 product per segment on the 3 high technology segments, 1 each. And we were considering the possibility of adding a new product in one of our segments, especially the performance one, but it was too late in the simulation, and that required a lot of like an investment, and we didn't have enough money for that.
Thank you so much. That was Team 2. Team 2, your time was 5 minutes and 50 seconds. Amazing, great time. I do want to add that Team 2, also called Team Baldwin, finished in the top 68%. For Dr. Cragen's standpoint, last semester, last fall, the best team was at 17% tile across the nation. So that lets you know we made some improvements. Next up will be our second place winner, which is Team 3. Team Chester, you're up.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Everyone see the slide okay?
Yes, good.
Okay, good morning. My name is Will Coleman. I was a part of Team 3 Chester, and I'm going to be starting the presentation off today with a little agenda. So if we go to the next slide. So agenda for today, we have the company overview, our management strategy, takeaways, results, lessons learned, and the conclusion. I also want to introduce our theme, our motto for this presentation, which is luck, a little bit of luck, a lot of learning, which finally led to a good performance. And so I'm going to pass it to Roland, who will be giving us the company overview.
Thank you, Will. My name is Roland, and I will be going over the company overview. First, we have Kaylin Lance, who is the VP of Competitive Intelligence. Next, we have Michael Horn, VP of Finance. Next, we have William Coleman, VP of Marketing. And then we have Daniel Chandler, who is our overall president and also the VP of Production. Andrew Riley, VP of Research and Development. And then finally me, VP of Human Resources. And I'll be passing on to Andrew to talk about management strategy.
Right. So my name is Andrew, and I have research and development. Overall, our management strategy in round 1, we wanted to observe the market and look for opportunities and where we really wanted to focus in and strike. So we went in with kind of a general strategy. In round 2, we began to pivot, focus on lowering costs, trying to be competitive with pricing. In the end, this strategy made us struggle to stay profitable while pursuing lower costs, lower prices. And in round 5, we began to pivot again. Earlier, we had discontinued our performance product. That way we could focus in on the 4 other markets, really focus in and make those products really good. In round 5, we began kind of focusing on a blue ocean strategy in the high-end segment. Specifically, we introduced a new high-end product, and it really helped us to attain high market share in that segment. And now I'll be passing it on to Michael to go over our summary and takeaways.
Thank you, Andrew. So here we have our income statement. I have it highlighted in red where we can see our sales and net profit. So going off of what Andrew said, we really, you can see in rounds 2 and 5, we really took a dip and then a surge back where we implemented our strategies of cutting one of our products and then implementing a new one later rounds. We really took an aggressive approach to HR with Roland and then production as far as hiring and automating a lot of our stuff. So you can see that's where net profit really started to catch its stride later on with our 2 strategies, really starting to kick in at the end. That's one of our large drivers, we think, that brought us up the number 2 slot right at the end there. And now I will pass it on to Kaylin with the results.
Thank you, Michael. So with the results, we did finish second overall.
You can really see in those third and fifth quarters where we definitely had to take out an emergency loan. You could see a huge dip in both, which caused us to lose a lot of our market share. We were second most of the time in those early quarters. We lost that spot in those middle quarters. So we really needed to kind of change our strategy. We decided to issue a new high-end product. So collectively with the 2 high-end products we had, we ended up taking over that market, and it really helped our market share to help us get back into that second place. And now I will pass it to Daniel for lessons learned.
Thanks, Kayla. Hey, I'm Daniel, and I'm going to present over the lessons learned and then our conclusion. So Roland, well, through the simulation, we all learned some lessons about business and communication. So Roland learned that a planned strategy is key to good performance. Will learned that the market is always changing, so never be satisfied with your position. And as marketing officer, that was pretty important because the forecasts were always changing. Michael learned about the importance of communicating goals and working together. Andrew learned how to collaborate and brainstorm to refine a plan. Kaylin learned the importance of departments working together. And I, along with Michael, learned the importance of thorough communication. So if we could go to the next slide, I'll present our conclusion. So this graphic shows the stock price by round for Team Chester. And going back to our theme of luck, learning, and performance, at the beginning of the simulation, we really stumbled into good fortune with our decisions. Throughout the rounds, we learned a couple of lessons. Sometimes they were expensive. Then at the end of the simulation, we really settled into a routine of high performance, incorporating those lessons we learned so that we were able to finish really strong in the CapSim simulation. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. The order now will be Dr. Cragen, Dr. Rudebach, Ms. Maddie B, and Mr. Provost.
Yeah, great. One of the things that I observed about this team, and probably you're going to see about the next one as well, is some of your competitors in the market, let's face it, they just messed up. To what degree did you see their mistakes and then take advantage of that in your business plan?
I can maybe speak to this a little bit. In terms of implementing our new product in round 5, it didn't seem like a lot of people were necessarily looking at which markets were available for opportunities or whatnot. We had left the performance market round 2 or round 3 with our product. And then people continued to leave that category even later, even though the market was already lower from us leaving it. And so it just seemed like some people weren't necessarily seeing which markets were available for, opportunity to take over.
Okay, Dr. Rudebach?
So I would like to commend you guys on that agenda slide, that whoever put that together, very nice creative work on that. It would have been nice to have seen that same creativity in your lessons learned slide. So it looked like those were done by 2 different people. The team slide with the pictures and names were synced. That was very nice. And also thanks for highlighting on the income statement exactly what you're wanting us to take our eyes to. So good job on those. So very nice job, guys. Thank you all very much.
All right, Miss Maddie B.
Yeah, you just said that you left the performance segment in round 3. Why did you leave it at that point? Do you think there was not enough, it wasn't profitable enough, or what were the reasons, or you just wanted to focus on the other segments?
I think initially, I can kind of speak to that. Initially, there was a slight misunderstanding of the limitations of the research and development spending cap. And so initially it seemed like we were struggling to keep all 5 products up to date and competitive in each market. So we inevitably decided to leave one market, and the performance segment happened to be the one that we were doing not as well in at the time. So we opted to leave that market.
If you would have done the simulation longer, do you think you would have exited another segment just to be better at the others, or you think you would have stayed with 4?
I think we would have continued with 4. I know we ended up adding a second product to the high end segment, and that was really profitable for us. We ended up with 41% of the total market share in that segment between our two products. So I think we might have actually ended up creating a second product in another segment, possibly the size segment.
Okay, and we'll have Mr. Provost finish.
Pretty much answered it on the first question. My curiosity is this new product. At what point did you decide to introduce a new product, and why?
Going back to that, it might have been poor timing on our part. We decided to implement the research and development for creating that product around round 5, which is when the recession hit, and that's when we took a little bit of dip. But inevitably, we decided to create a new product because our total overall market share plummeted a little bit after we discontinued our performance product. So adding a 5th product back into our mix really helped us attain higher market share again.
And another thing with that is that with the perceptual map, we put the 2 products in our high-end segment on kind of 2 ends of the segment. So that way we were hitting different prospective customers on what they wanted out of that segment.
Okay, so I just want to make a couple of comments. Team 3 finished, their time was 5:10, so amazing. Practice does make a difference. They finished in the 79th percentile. So we're going to be talking about Team 1. And so this simulation is kind of different in terms of my approach. So all my classes have a team component because that's what industry, that's where we're leading to. So that's a corporate advantage for us. But one of the things I think was very different is that we balanced the teams. There were 36 people, students in the class, 6 teams, and we had to balance that. So I had help with Dr. Ruderbach and Professor Nixon. So all these teams, it's on the books, they were evenly matched. The difference is the core competencies and how they put that together. And you should see this in our team, our next team, number 1 team that finished among all these great teams, and that is Team 4. Team 4, you're up.
All right, thanks. Let me get that pulled up. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sweet. So good morning, everybody. My name is Justin Kuntz, and I was the president of Team 4, Team Digby, and we're going to walk you through our road to first place today. So to introduce our team, I was the president. Andrea was our VP of Finance. Savon was our VP of Marketing. Brittany was our VP of HR. Matthew was in charge of R&D, and Noah was the VP of Production. So for our presentation today, first, we're going to walk through just an overview of the simulation and answer the question, how did we perform? Then Savon's going to go over our customer satisfaction and talk about how our products lined up with customer needs. Noah's going to talk about labor costs, how we can increase our margins. Andrea is going to talk about our financials. And then finally, we're all going to wrap up and talk about what we learned from this presentation. So first, I'm going to take the simulation overview and answer the question, how did we perform? So this slide kind of tells the story of our simulation. So the simulation starts in 2023 and we had 8 rounds. And so in the first year, we finished second in balanced scorecard, which is the total measure of how we performed among the teams. And we were in the 88th percentile nationwide. But then by the 4th round, we were hitting 98th percentile nationwide every round and finished first place in the balanced scorecard in rounds 2 through 8 for the class. So we really kind of found our groove in round 2 and 3 and just kind of kept that going throughout the rest of the simulation. So overall nationwide, competing against this simulation is used by schools such as Penn State, Florida State, BYU, and other top institutions. And so we were really pleased to finish the 99th percentile nationwide. And now Savon's going to talk to us about customer satisfaction.
Thank you, Justin. So I'll be talking about the customer satisfaction and how our products lined up with our customer needs. For the average customer survey score, we did a really good job of understanding our customers and paying attention to the customer criteria as it changed throughout the simulation. And we had the highest average in 4 out of the 5 segments. And the correlation that we saw was that the teams with the highest average were the teams typically led in the industry. For the market share, we led with 26.6%, and 2 major factors that helped our market share was our innovation as we hit the ideal positioning points in each segment, And then for our pricing, we had a competitive price, which allowed us to maintain our market share. For our total sales, we made $253 million in sales, and we actually saw a $26 million difference between our team and the team in second place. And now I will pass it off to Noah to talk about the labor costs.
Thanks, Avon. So I'm going to be talking about our labor costs and how we were able to increase our contribution margin. And the way that we did this is we focused on automation. The benefits of increasing automation is that it reduces our labor costs, increases the contribution margin. The one drawback to that is it increases the time that it takes for R&D projects to be completed. But for our Dell product, which is our low-end category, we only had to do R&D on that once. So increasing that up to 5 to 10 was really, really helpful in getting our contribution margin up. And in total for the simulation at the end, round 8, we averaged 52.7% contribution margin, and the second place team was at 50%. So we had them beat by 2% in that. And I will now pass it on to Andrea, who will talk about our financial structure.
Hello, my name is Andrea, and I will be talking about finance because I'm a vice president of finance. And our financial goal was to create and maintain successful financial structure. As you can see from this table, our team, Digby in blue color, was the only team across the competition that managed to avoid taking out emergency loan, which was the first step in the right direction. As we know, consistency is key in achieving long-term results. So since year 3, marked in the red circle, our stock price started drastically increasing and we never looked back. And the primary goal of any business is to earn money. And in our case, we managed to gain over $200 million in profit. In comparison, the second best team only managed to gain 95 million. So we had a big gap between us and the rest of the competition. I'll be passing on to Matt.
Now, when we asked the question, what do we learn in the simulation? Something that I thought that I learned was that our teamwork was super important. I thought that we all coerced very well. We worked incredibly well together. And I feel that it shows in our results. We were all, at the beginning, we really talked about what position we wanted to be in. And I think that we were all in the position that we were most comfortable with, and it allowed us to be successful. Brittany?
Yeah, I learned that you really have to just put your faith and your trust in your teammates, and I learned to rely on them, and it really helped the further we got in that I trusted them. And then I'm going to pass it back to Andrea.
I learned that it's very important to be up to date with what other departments are doing within the team, so I can make sure that we avoid taking out emergency loans and we can just focus on growing the company. So next is Noah.
I had to learn that even though I was only in charge of production, I also had to think about what R&D, marketing, and finance was doing in order to maximize our decisions for the best benefit for the company. Savon?
I learned the importance of understanding the customer as the customer needs change throughout the simulation, and now I'll pass it off to Justin.
So the most important thing I learned was that we needed to start aggressive and stay aggressive. We have a lot of respect for all the other teams competing with us, and we knew that if we were to let off the gas at any time, that those teams would be right on our tails. So we just really wanted to stay aggressive with our decision making and just to stay ahead of the market. And so with that, that is all we have. We're now open to any questions.
Thank you so much. We're going to start with Dr. Ruderbach, Ms. Maddie B., Mr. Provost, Dr. Craig, and we're going to add Ms. Vandra, Vivi, and she can. I'm gonna let her in. She's another guest. She'll introduce herself. So, Dr. Ruderbach, you're up.
You guys did a really nice job on the practice round on Tuesday, and it was just as effective today. I did notice one thing on your slides today that I had not picked up on Tuesday, and that was the consistent use of one color every time you were highlighting something that you guys did. That was a really subtle, very nice thing to have done. And once I realized what you were doing, I started watching for it on every slide. So whoever plugged that in, that was very creative and a very nice way to do that. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Ms. Maddie B.
Obviously you did really well at forecasting. How did you manage the inventory? Because we saw a lot of other groups who struggled with forecasting and then had too much inventory. How did you manage that? And also, did you introduce any new products or did you stay with one per segment?
So as far as the inventory goes, that was Noah's thing. Noah did a really great job on that. I think one of the most important parts of that is the confidence that we had in our products and how they compared to the other competitors. So as we saw the percentages that the market demand was going to increase, we also expected our demand to increase by a similar amount, just because we think our products were top of the line. So I think our confidence in our products enabled us to have confidence in the growth in our market share. And so that helped us to produce the right amounts. And we didn't create any new products in any of the segments. That's something that, looking back, we probably could have done throughout. We were just unsure about the uncertainty of that and didn't want to take any risk in that area when we were already seeing so much success.
Okay.
Mr. Provost?
Not a question, but a comment here. I thought this was excellent. Customer satisfaction, innovation, automation. You all looked at the market, your competitors. You looked at what your competitors were not doing and what they were doing, and you made decisions based on that. That is outstanding. I like it.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Cragen?
Yeah, 50% contribution margin is ridiculous. Just, it all comes down, doesn't it, to what the contribution margin and SGA. That's what it all comes down to that. Great job on that. I've hired several hundred people over my career. And one of the things I've learned is there's a big difference between knowers and doers. And you guys are doers. Your big problem now is the expectations of your board of directors is out of sight.
Good point, Dr. Cragen. Dr. Cragen is one of my mentors. Ms. Vivi, could you say something, introduce yourself and make some comments if you're still on?
Sure. My name is Svetlana Milakovic. I go by Vivi. I am alumni from OBU. I work for CISA Pollination as Administrative Research Development Team here and Economic Development Team. Congratulations, guys. You all did fantastic. One of the things that I wanted to ask was, obviously teamwork was one of the key to be so successful, but how did you guys split up the task? Who got the role and why?
Okay, so a lot of that had to do with, we had those practice rounds where everybody got to kind of try some different things and see what they were good at, what they were interested in. And so we kind of just saw that based on what people were comfortable with, kind of put them in charge of those areas. But we also worked together on them. So just because Noah was overproduction doesn't mean other people didn't look at it. So I kind of worked collaboratively with each one of those vice presidents in their department to kind of think ahead for what we could do in their specific area to succeed.
Thank you.
So let's give a round of applause for all the other teams that I missed, team 2, 3, 4. Let's give them a virtual applause. So what I want to do right now, it's amazing what students would do when you set expectations high. I mean, they all did a great job. Team 4 time was 5 minutes and 48 seconds. So amazing. So I do want to have people say a couple of things. I want to get response from our guests. I want them to introduce themselves. Dr. Jackson had to leave. Dean Godwin, are you here? Are you still here? Okay, I think he had to leave. So we have Dean Holden and everybody else. I'll introduce. I want to make sure I got everybody, but Dean Holden, a couple words as we depart. Comments on the presentations.
Hi, I'm Dr. the chair of the business school. Great job, guys. It's good to see our seniors excelling and doing this great work.
Dr. Dorr, I saw you in the place. I saw your name. Are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Comments?
I like that my computer science students are working outside of the box in areas other than computer science.
Great job. We have Dr. Polk.
Hi, I'm Dr. Polk. I am an associate professor of business. I have a concentration in marketing and management at King University's here in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I have also used simulations within my classes. And I can tell you that the applicability, the ability to actually use what you are learning to apply it will put you guys in a very, very competitive make you far more competitive once you get out into the job market. It's one thing to learn it, it's another thing to do it. And so you all, I hope that you keep that with you, and always keep the customer in mind once you're going into marketing and business period. But you guys are on a really good, have a really good foundation. Dr. Green, you've done a great job.
Appreciate it. Want to make sure, did I miss any guests? I mean, you know, I'm trying to look at names and try to, did I miss anybody? But we just want to thank all our guests. And that other comment, if we can be of service at Oklahoma Baptist University, this is downloadable. And if you want a web link of this presentation, please email it, please request it. Students already have it, but I will give you a copy of that because I want other schools to know what we're doing and help them out. Final words I'm going to give to our reviewers. Give them a virtual hand, if you would. Applause. They did a great job. Virtual, come on, Kaylee. Okay, all right, everybody. Brittany, wait. Okay, here we go. Good job. So we're gonna start. Final words. Ms. Vivi, you have the final words. We're gonna start with you.
Thank you for having me. Congratulations. I'm happy for y'all. It's been a while since I've been in school, but you guys have progressed so much when it comes to PowerPoint presentation, stuff like that. I guess Zoom Live have changed that. So you guys have done fantastic. So congratulations.
I do want to mention that we did a real tour. We did a plant tour. We did a field trip like kindergarten, and we went to CPN and VV. They were wonderful hosts. Mr. Provost, you up?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me, Dr. Green, and thank you for allowing me to be part of these young men and women's future. I will say this: I've worked with a plethora of businesses over the years, and what I've learned is that things like customer service, innovation, automation, those things may change, but people, business never changes. They still want the same things: customer satisfaction.
And I thank you so much. I want to give the award for the alumni who traveled the longest distance to get to the Bison Hill. Miss Maddie B, you're on.
Yeah, I just want to say congratulations. Whenever I did the simulation, we were struggling big time. Like, we could not figure it out. I actually think we ended up, somebody bought us, I think, or we left all segments besides one. It was quite horrible and frustrating, but we learned a lot. So, and it's still helping me today. So very grateful.
We always love alumni. Tell them to come back, and we don't even ask you for money. Dr. Dennis and Dr. Holt might, but I'm not asking for money. I just like to see you. Dr. Ruderbach?
You know, I would just like to say, I feel like a proud grandpa. Most of you guys were in my freshman intro to business class, and to see you all now and what you're able to do and how you've progressed, it just really makes me feel proud. And then see Maddie and Vivi to come back and how successful you folks have been, just being out of school a few years. It's a great day. Thank you all for being there.
And Dr. Cragen.
Yeah, I'd say amen to all of that. And let me just add this. Now the big challenge is, how do you take your business experience and all the training you've accumulated and use it to make an impact for the kingdom?
Amen. Amen. So we have Dr. Holden and Dr. Dennis, if they're still on. And then we're gonna, students got to run to class. So I want y'all to run to class. I want y'all to miss class. Dr. Holden, are you still there?
Yes, Dr.
Words?
Oh, I already gave mine. I was the first one out. Yeah, great job, guys.
Okay, all right. When you get over 50, something like that happens. Dr. Dennis, are you still with us?
I am, yeah. I was so impressed. I had no idea all that went into the simulation. So I've learned a lot as I've been listening, and great work. Very impressed.
So again, we're making a difference. As Dr. Whitlock says, what we do on Bison Hill matters. I just want again, thank the guests, thank the reviewers, everyone showing up. We do have class next week, and you know what? It's not gonna be on Zoom. All right, so y'all need to show up. All right. Y'all have a good weekend. God bless y'all. Take care.